Hello. Today we'll be talking about sensation and perception. What is sensation and perception? Sensation is when sense organs gather information. Perception is how the brain selects, organizes, and interprets the sensation. Thresholds are the lowest point where a stimulus will cause a response. A stimulus is any energy that can excite our nervous system. Difference thresholds are the smallest amount of change in stimulus needed to perceive two stimuli as different. The just noticeable difference is the amount of stimulus needed before this threshold is detected. Absolute thresholds are the amount of stimulation required for an organism to sense a stimulus. For example, the smallest amount of light that can be seen 50% of the time is a candle from 30 miles away. Visual sense is the ability for light to travel in waves through humans' eyes. The different parts of light are the wavelength, amplitude, and purity. Wavelength is the crest of one wave of light to another crest. Amplitude is the height of the wave, which suggests the brightness. Purity is the number of wavelengths that make up light. The different parts of the eye are the cornea, which is the outer transparent covering of the eye that allows light in, the pupil, which is the opening in the iris that can change size to let a controlled amount of light in, and the lens is a transparent structure that can bend the incoming light and changes the focus of the eye. Along with this, we have the retina, which is a layer in the back of the eye that can contain specialized nerve cells, which also includes two photoreceptors in the retina, rods, which are responsive with poor vision at lower light levels, and cones, which are active at higher light levels. Next, we will talk about levels of color vision, beginning with the trichromatic theory, which states that the eye is sensitive to the primary colors red, blue, and green. The opponent process theory states the eye is sensitive to the complementary color pairs red and green and blue and yellow. Color blindness is a condition in which an individual is unable to distinguish between certain colors. Auditory sense involves the ability to hear through the rhythmic vibrations of air molecules creating sound waves. Frequency is the number of complete wavelengths or cycles that occur within a specific time period. Amplitude is the height of the wave, which measures how much air is expanding and compressing, and complexity is the combination of different sound waves that make up a sound. The different parts of the ear are the pinna, which is the outer part of the ear. This funnels sound waves in order to capture more sound. The tympanic membrane, which is also known as the eardrum. This separates the outer and middle ear as well as conducts vibrations to the ossicles. The ossicles refer to the malleus, incus, and stapes, which are three small bones that make up the middle ear, and each one of these bones concentrates on vibrations and amplifies sounds. Continuing with the parts of the ear, we have the cochlea, which is bony, snail-shaped, fluid-filled tube in the inner ear that has receptors for hearing. Hair cells, fine hairs embedded in the basilar membrane that transduce sound into neural impulses as fluid bends them. And the auditory nerve, which transmits axons in the cochlea to the brain. With hearing, we also have deafness, beginning with conduction deafness, also known as middle ear deafness. This occurs when the bones in the middle ear don't transmit sound waves properly because of disease or infection. Nerve deafness is also known as inner ear deafness. This occurs when there is damage to the cochlea, hair cells, or the auditory nerve. We will now discuss smell and taste. With smell, the olfactory mucosa, located above the roof of the mouth, sends information to the olfactory bulb in the brain, causing transduction to occur. With taste, the papillae are small bumps of the tongue that have receptors. In the mouth, the taste buds form new ones every 11 days. Skin senses vary all over the surface of the body. For example, the tip of the tongue is the most sensitive and the foot is the least. The skin can sense warmth, cold, and pain. The sense of pain is necessary for survival. Everybody has a pain gate that involves specialized axons carrying a pain signal from the body to the spinal cord and brain. This closes if we are in pain and opens if we're not. With pain, there are also endorphins that are released to relieve the pain. Next is body position and movement. Kinesthesis is the sense of position and movement of body parts. We have millions of receptors all over our body that constantly inform us about position and movement. These are located in our muscles, joints, and tendons. Equilibrium is information about position of our whole body in space. We have receptors in our inner ear next to the cochlea. The semicircular canals are like interconnected pretzels that act like gyroscopes with three planes of movement: left and right, front and back, up and down. Movement causes conditions like vertigo. Lastly, we have organization and perception, beginning with Gestalt laws. Firstly is figure ground, which is how we organize stimuli into figures and backgrounds. Next is similarity, when similar elements within perceptual fields tend to be grouped together. Proximity, nearness, is when objects near each other tend to be grouped together. Closure is when we tend to fill in gaps in incomplete stimuli. These are perceived but do not actually exist. Good continuation is when we organize stimuli into continuous lines or patterns, and simplicity is when we organize a stimulus pattern into the simplest component. We also have depth and distance, such as binocular cues, which are cues that rely on both eyes working together. These include convergence, which is when the eyes point more and more inward as an object gets closer. This information then goes to the brain. We also have retinal disparity, which is when the eyes are in a slightly different location. This is greater the closer the object is. We also have monocular cues, such as aerial haze. Hazy items are perceived to be at a distance. Relative size. Large objects are close and smaller when they're far away. Interposition. Close objects block vision of objects farther away. And linear perspective, when parallel lines such as railroad tracks appear to converge as they get farther away. We also have perceptual constancies, such as Emmert's law. The closer an object is, then the larger the image is cast on our retina, size consistency. We then have shape constancy, which is a perceptual process that allows objects to maintain constant shape though orientation or position may change. For example, a door being open versus closed. We also have color constancy, which is how we perceive color of familiar objects as constant, though sensation of color may change. This is at a higher degree for objects of a familiar color. Continuing with illusions, illusions is how our perception misrepresents the world and doesn't agree with true physical characteristics, such as shape illusion, parallel lines appear to bend, size illusion, when we overestimate vertical versus horizontal, and direction illusion, when we believe we are facing a different direction than we actually are. Lastly, we have interpretation and perception, such as the perceptual set, which is seeing what you were set to see, but is also influenced by what you expect. Motivation, which is how our desires can alter how things are perceived. For example, pictures can be identified as food if you're hungry. And experience, how early experience can alter the way an organism may perceive the world. Thank you.